I'm Oren Michels. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Mashery. I think I saw a few of you come through our Circus Mashery Lounge, so I hope you guys all had fun with that and had some bloody Marys and beer and t-shirts. So I'm here to talk about creativity in the post-website era. So we should probably decide what that actually means. The post-website era, as we define it, is the fact that in this day and age, people no longer sit at the desk and internet. The time of interneting, where it was an activity that you sat, you did, you got up and you stopped interneting and moved on, has really come and gone. And pretty much at this point, you internet wherever you are, whenever you're doing it, you do it without thinking about it. You're interneting when you pull up, you check in on the Foursquare, you grab a boarding pass on your American Airlines app. You play an Xbox game with your friends who might be halfway across the country or around the world. You're using the internet in so many different ways that it's just very different than the traditional concept of, oh, let's get on the internet, we need to have a website. And so as people get excited about this and start sitting out and waiting to get the latest and newest and greatest devices in order to interact with you, to work with your brand, to do the things that they wish to do with these devices, it opens up a whole new set of opportunities for ways to engage with your customers and engage with your users. And ultimately, you can have devices that are going to be, no matter what they are, from iPad apps to bus stops. That's actually an interactive, it's essentially an overgrown iPad attached to the side of the bus stop. And so when we talk about what's happening in this new world, and we're not going to call it a new number or anything, we sort of gave up on that. But you look back at what creativity meant as the internet has developed, and many people said that the big innovation in creativity of Web 1.0 was the swoosh logo, which we've had a lot of, and Web 2.0, of course, was all about rounded corners. And those were all really interesting, and those were incredible innovations, but I think we're going to be doing a little better this time around. So what are we really looking at when we talk about creativity? Well, creativity, and there are various sorts of definitions of it, but I want to run through a few concepts that revolve around what creativity is in terms of ideas and alternatives and possibilities. The first thing you need in order to be creative is you need to have perspective. You need to be looking at the world in different ways, understanding it differently than other people do, or perhaps ahead of how other people do. You need to recognize new possibilities. You need to say, okay, the thing that we have been doing before is actually going to change. There would be different ways for us to do things. And you need to be able to see those, identify them, and really take advantage of them. And you also need to be able to see things in general in a unique way. There's actually a guy who's painted himself into this picture there. And this is an artist who has figured out a different way of doing street art. And finally, in our world at least, you want to have creativity with utility. You want not to build a stairway to nowhere built with stairs that you can't actually stand on. It's art. Art is great. Big fan of art. But when we're doing creative applications, when we're creating interesting ways of interacting with our world, the idea is that form will follow function. We will have great utility. So as we come into this new era, first let's talk about what's not new. Because there's a lot of things that aren't new. The most important thing that's not new is that this is all about being where your customers are. And we're going to talk, the examples we're going to go through, and the ideas that we're going to talk about are things where this new world, this new idea of new devices and new mobility allows you to interact with your customers in new ways, new places, and really solve problems for them in a way you couldn't when you were constrained by the concept of the browser on a desktop or a laptop where someone had an internet connection stuck into the back of it. And the other part that is not new is that you really are solving problems, and you want to create something useful. This is a Japanese watermelon that fits in a small refrigerator. Right? These are the concept of saying, okay, we're going to look at things a little differently and give people what they may not have thought they wanted, but actually solves a problem. But there certainly are some things that are new in the post-website era. And the first thing is that we now have ubiquitous connectivity, right? You are always on, even when you don't think you're on. And it's ubiquitous in place, it's ubiquitous in time. And we had a management offsite today. Several of the executives said that the first thing they do when they sort of roll over in bed is pull out their device and start checking email. Good for them, but it is something which you really are both, you are always on, you are expected to be always on, and there are an awful lot of people building innovative ways for us to make use of that. The other difference that we have in this world is the concept of mobile versus portable. And in mobile versus portable, the concept here is that you don't, the concept of the portable device, which is really something we've had for a long time, the laptop, it's still not really a mobile device. You sit, you use it, you close it, you go somewhere else, you use it again. It's certainly there are things you can do with that you were never able to do when your computing experience was really tied to your desk. But it still wasn't truly mobile. And when you look at the kinds of applications that we use, there are things you need to do when you're mobile, or want to do when you're mobile, that you're not going to need to do when you're sitting down. You look at Foursquare, you can't actually check into Foursquare from the desktop browser, because in theory you shouldn't be doing that. That's not something that it's designed for. By the same token, I fly a lot as part of my job. I don't book airline tickets and plan vacations on my mobile device. It's just not an activity I'm going to do. I don't need the mobile experience optimized for something I'm only going to do in a fixed or portable setting. The other thing that this new post-website era is tactile. It involves touch. It's not, you are interacting with a different set of user interfaces than just a keyboard and a mouse. It could be a game console, it could be a touch screen. There are a wide range of ways that you will interact, but it is very different than merely the concept of conveying textual information in and getting textual and graphical information back out. And you're going to see a lot more different ways of interacting with devices. I was at a conference a few months ago, and one of the keynotes was from the CEO of a company called Interaxon. It's actually doing a thought-controlled computer. They were demonstrating how you can wear a device on your head and you can actually think and move things by thought. It's going to be a lot of new different ways of interacting with the things that you create. The other part about tactility is it opens it up to a broader range of people. It's a 103-year-old iPad user, and for I don't know how many greats of granddaughters. But you have, you can hand an iPad to a kid, a very young child, and there are things they can do with that, and of course they would never have been able to do with a keyboard and a mouse. And you have people who might have, there are certain physical impairments that people can have that can still allow them to use some certain kinds of interfaces that they might not have used otherwise. The other aspect that is important here is location. And pretty much every app that you get, you pull it up on your mobile device, and the first thing it says is, can I use your location? So you can be pretty well assured that what you're going to be doing is you're going to be doing things that are context aware. And of course, in the regular website era, there was a lot of context awareness. There was obviously context aware advertisements. There were there's retargeting and tracking, all the things people do to try to identify who you are and what your motivations are. A friend of mine got engaged recently, and on her Facebook ads, it stopped advertising to